The call came at 11:47 p.m. I remember the time because I was halfway through microwaving leftover pizza, standing barefoot on the cold tile of my small Chicago apartment, wondering when exactly my life had become this quiet. Her name lit up my phone like a ghost from another life. Emily Carter. We hadn't spoken in nearly 3 years. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Hello? I said, my voice cautious, unfamiliar even to myself. There was silence on the other end, then a shaky breath. I need a husband by tomorrow, she said. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sentence was so absurd it bounced right off the walls of my brain. Emily, I said gently, either you've been drinking, or this is the weirdest prank I've ever received. I'm serious, she said, her voice cracking. And I don't have anyone else to ask. That stopped me. I turned off the microwave, the hum dying mid-spin. What do you mean, by tomorrow? My grandmother, she said quickly. She's flying in. She's old-fashioned. She thinks I'm married. If she finds out I'm not. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. Some families carried traditions like heirlooms. Others carried them like weapons. And you called me because you once told me, she whispered, that if I ever needed help, real help, I could call you. No matter how much time had passed. I closed my eyes. I had said that. Back when we were younger. Back when feelings were simpler and more dangerous. I don't need a fake wedding, she continued. Just, someone to stand next to me. Someone believable. I exhaled slowly. You realize what you're asking, right? Yes. And you still called? Yes. There was a long pause. Then I said the words that changed everything. Then you'll have to live at my place. Emily arrived the next morning with one suitcase and eyes that looked like they hadn't slept. She stood in the doorway of my apartment, sunlight catching in her hair, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. She looked different. Older. Stronger. Softer in places life had clearly pressed on her. You didn't have to say yes, she said quietly. I know. But you did. I always do, I replied. When it comes to you. She looked away. We'd met 7 years earlier at a mutual friend's barbecue in Austin. She'd spilled lemonade on my shoes. I'd pretended not to care. I'd fallen for her slowly, then all at once. She'd never known. Or maybe she had, and pretended not to. So, she said, forcing a smile. Husband, huh? Temporary, I corrected. Very temporary. She nodded. Of course. But something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. We sat at my small kitchen table with coffee between us like a peace offering. Rules, she said. We need rules. Agreed. No real feelings. I swallowed. Right. No sharing a bed. Obviously. And this ends after the weekend. I nodded. As soon as your grandmother leaves. She hesitated. And if at any point this feels uncomfortable, she added, we stop. Deal. We shook hands. Her fingers lingered a second too long. The first test came faster than expected. Her grandmother, Ruth Carter, arrived that evening with sharp eyes and a smile that didn't miss anything. So this is him, she said, looking me up and down. The man who finally convinced you to settle down. Yes, ma'am, I said, offering my hand. Nice to meet you. She took it, squeezing harder than expected. You love my granddaughter? I didn't even hesitate. Yes. Emily froze beside me. Ruth smiled. Good. I can tell when someone's lying. Pretending turned out to be harder than either of us expected. Holding hands in public. sharing knowing looks. Cooking dinner together like it was normal. Every laugh felt real. Every touch lingered. One night, after her grandmother had gone to bed, Emily stood on the balcony wrapped in one of my hoodies. "You're good at this," she said. "At lying?" "At loving," she corrected softly. I leaned against the railing beside her. "Emily," I said carefully, "why didn't you ever tell me why you really left Austin?" She stiffened. "Because I was scared," she admitted. "You looked at me like I was something worth choosing. And I didn't believe it." My heart pounded. "And now?" I asked. She met my eyes. "Now I'm terrified that I waited too long. It happened in the kitchen." Of course it did. Flour on the counter. Music playing softly. Her laughter fading as we realized how close we were standing. "This isn't part of the plan," she whispered. "I know. But it doesn't feel fake." "No," I said quietly. "It doesn't." Her lips hovered inches from mine. Then she stepped back. "We can't," she said. "Not yet." I nodded, even though it hurt. Ruth confronted me the morning before her flight. "You love her," she said plainly. "Yes. And she loves you." I hesitated. "She's just afraid," Ruth continued. "Don't let her run again." At the airport, Emily stood silently, arms crossed. "So," she said. "This is it." "Yeah." She took a breath. "Thank you. For everything." I stepped closer. "Emily," I said. "If this wasn't fake, if this could be real, would you stay?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted to leave," she whispered. "I just wanted to be chosen." I cupped her face. "I choose you," I said. "Today. Tomorrow. For real." She kissed me then. No pretending. No rules. Just truth. She never moved out. We turned my apartment into our place. We told the truth, to her family, to ourselves. And 1 year later, when she looked at me and smiled nervously, she said, "I don't need a husband by tomorrow," she said. "But I want you forever." I smiled back. "Good," I replied. Because I was never pretending. Sometimes love doesn't arrive on time. Sometimes it shows up late at night, disguised as an emergency. And sometimes, the lie you tell the world becomes the truth you've been too afraid to admit. The morning after the kiss felt heavier than any lie we had told. Emily woke up before me. I knew because when I stepped into the kitchen, she was already there, staring out the window with a mug of coffee she hadn't touched. "Did you sleep?" I asked. She shook her head. "Not really." Neither had I. Everything had changed, and nothing had. Her grandmother had left. The reason she came had disappeared. Yet Emily was still here, still wearing one of my shirts, still moving around my apartment like she belonged. Which scared me more than the lie ever had. "We should talk about last night," she said quietly. "Yeah." She turned to face me. "That kiss wasn't part of the plan." "I know. But it didn't feel like a mistake." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Then what did it feel like?" She swallowed. "Like something we've been avoiding for years." Emily finally told me the truth that afternoon. Not about her grandmother. About the deadline. "I don't just need a husband for my family," she admitted, sitting on the edge of the couch. "I need one for my job." I frowned. "Your job?" "I'm being considered for a senior partner position," she said. "The firm is traditional. They don't say it out loud, but they trust married women more. Stable. Settled. That's messed up." "I know," she whispered. "But I've worked 10 years for this. And the timeline? They want to meet you. At the company retreat. Next week. I leaned back slowly. So this wasn't a weekend thing. No. Silence stretched between us. You should have told me, I said. I was afraid you'd say no. And if I do now? She looked at me, eyes shining. Then I lose everything. I agreed. Not because it was logical. But because when I looked at her, I realized I had already crossed every line that mattered. The retreat was in Colorado. Snow. Cabins. Fireplaces. And co-workers who watched us like hawks. Emily slipped her hand into mine the moment we arrived. Remember, she whispered. Married. Confident. In love. I squeezed her hand. Careful. I'm bad at pretending. She smiled nervously. Me too. Her colleague, Mark, noticed everything. The way Emily laughed a little too hard at his jokes. The way his hand lingered on her shoulder. Your wife is impressive, he told me over drinks. I know, I replied. You're a lucky man. I was. And I hated that he could see her the way I did. That night, I confronted her. You didn't tell me Mark existed, I said. She frowned. Why does that matter? Because he looks at you like he wants what's mine. She froze. Mine? She repeated. The word hung between us. The argument exploded in the cabin. This was supposed to be fake, she said. Then why does it hurt? I shot back. She turned away, tears spilling. Because I don't know where the lie ends anymore, she whispered. I stepped closer. Then stop lying. She looked up at me. And kissed me. Harder this time. Desperately. No rules. No excuses. The next morning, Emily panicked. We crossed a line, she said. If this goes wrong, I lose my job. You lose your peace. I took her hands. I already lost my peace years ago, I said. When I let you walk away. Her breath caught. You're not disposable, I continued. And neither is this. She looked torn. I need time, she whispered. Time. The word that had always kept us apart. At the final dinner, the partners raised a toast. To Emily and her husband, one of them said. Applause followed. Emily stood up. My heart dropped. I need to say something, she said, voice shaking. The room went quiet. I reached for her hand. She squeezed it. I won't build my future on a lie, she said. Even if it costs me everything. She turned to me. And I won't keep pretending with the man who already owns my heart. Gasps filled the room. She looked at me. Stay, she whispered. For real. The fallout was brutal. Meetings. Silence. Waiting. Emily prepared for the worst. But 2 days later, the call came. They admired your honesty, she said, laughing through tears. They offered me the position anyway. I pulled her into my arms. You chose courage, I said. And love, she replied. Back home, she unpacked her suitcase. Permanently. So, she said softly. About that husband thing. I smiled. No deadlines, I said. No pretending. She stepped into my arms. Good, she whispered. Because I don't need a husband by tomorrow anymore. Love didn't fix everything. It never does. The moment we returned to real life, the weight of consequences settled in. Emily dove headfirst into her new role at the firm. Late nights. Endless calls. Pressure she tried to hide behind tired smiles. I watched her drift, physically present, emotionally miles away. "You're pulling back," I said one night as she dropped her bag by the door. "I'm just exhausted," she replied. But exhaustion doesn't make someone avoid eye contact. Emily finally admitted what haunted her. "I'm scared," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "What if this only worked because of the lie? What if without pressure, we realize we don't fit?" I felt the sting of her words. "So you think I was convenient?" I asked quietly. "No," she said quickly. "I think you're safe. And that scares me more." Safe. The word sounded like rejection dressed as concern. We didn't kiss right away. We talked. Honestly. About fears. Careers. Boundaries. Dreams. Real love conversations. At dawn, she rested her head on my chest. "No more running," she whispered. "No more deadlines," I replied. Weeks later, life settled into something real. Not perfect. But honest. One evening, Emily looked at me and smiled softly. "You know," she said, "this is the first relationship that feels like home." I took her hand. "Good," I said. "Because I'm not letting you move out again." She laughed. Love wasn't rushed anymore. No pressure. No pretending. Just two people choosing each other, daily. And this time, the future didn't feel like a deadline. It felt like a promise. Choosing each other didn't magically simplify life. It made it real. Emily still worked long hours. I still had days where old insecurities whispered that she might outgrow me. But now, instead of silence, we talked. Every night ended the same way, on the couch, feet tangled, sharing the small details that once felt too insignificant to mention. This was intimacy. Not urgency. The first public event as a real couple felt stranger than pretending ever had. No scripts. No roles. Just us. When a colleague asked Emily how long we'd been married, she smiled calmly. "We're not," she said. "We're partners." She reached for my hand. And we chose each other. I'd never been prouder. The questions started showing up everywhere. Friends. Family. Even strangers. "So when's the wedding?" Emily laughed it off, but later that night she admitted. "I don't want to rush," she said. "But I don't want to lose momentum either." I nodded. "I don't want to propose because it feels expected." She smiled softly. "Good. We agreed on something simple. No pressure. When it felt right, we'd know." Then came the article. A business blog published a piece questioning Emily's promotion, hinting that personal connections had influenced the decision. It wasn't true. But truth doesn't stop whispers. Emily spiraled. "What if this follows me forever?" she asked. "What if loving me costs you?" I took her face in my hands. "I didn't choose you because you were easy," I said. "I chose you because you're worth standing beside." Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't post. I didn't argue online. I showed up. Morning coffee. Late night dinners. Listening when she needed silence. Emily noticed. "You're steady," she said one night. "You don't try to fix me." "I'm not here to fix you," I replied. "I'm here to stay." The proposal didn't happen at a restaurant. Or during a vacation. It happened on a random Tuesday. We were cooking dinner. Music playing. Nothing special. Emily turned to me suddenly. "What if we didn't wait?" she asked. I blinked. "For what?" "For forever." She took a breath. "I don't need grand gestures," she said. "I need certainty. And with you, I have it." I set the spoon down. "Are you proposing to me?" I asked. She smiled nervously. Maybe. I laughed. Then I pulled a small box from the drawer. I bought this months ago, I admitted. Just didn't want fear to make the decision. Her hand flew to her mouth. She opened the box. Simple ring. Timeless. Yes, she whispered. Not loud. Not dramatic. Certain. We didn't tell anyone right away. We sat on the floor, backs against the couch, letting the moment belong to us. When we finally told people, reactions were mixed. Some smiled. Some questioned the timing. Emily handled it calmly. This isn't rushed, she said. It's intentional. And for the first time, no one could argue with that. When we finally told people, reactions were mixed. Some smiled. Some questioned the timing. Emily handled it calmly. This isn't rushed, she said. It's intentional. And for the first time, no one could argue with that. Late one night, Emily rested her head on my shoulder. Do you ever think about how this started? She asked. I smiled. You needing a husband by tomorrow? She laughed softly. Yeah. And now? Now, she said, lifting her hand to show the ring, I want a partner for a lifetime. We didn't plan a wedding yet. We planned a life. Morning routines. Shared goals. Arguments handled with respect. Love without deadlines. And for the first time, the future felt quiet. In the best possible way. Wedding planning surprised us. Not because it was easy. But because it wasn't rushed. No ticking clocks. No ultimatums. No pretending for anyone else. We chose small things carefully, colors that felt like us, music that held memories, vows we hadn't written yet but already lived. Funny, Emily said one evening, scrolling through venues. I once needed a husband by tomorrow. I smiled. Now you're choosing one without fear. She reached for my hand. That's the difference. The night before the wedding, doubt knocked softly. Not loud enough to panic. Just loud enough to be honest. What if tomorrow changes us? Emily asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. It will, I said. But not the way you think. She looked at me. Marriage doesn't trap us, I continued. It gives us a place to stand together. She nodded, eyes shining. Thank you, she whispered, for never rushing me, even when I deserved certainty sooner. I kissed her forehead. We arrived when we were ready. The morning of the wedding arrived quietly. Sunlight through thin curtains. Coffee untouched. Breathing slowed. Emily got ready with a small group, no chaos, no drama. Just laughter and deep breaths. When she put on the dress, she didn't cry. She smiled. Grounded. Certain. I stood at the altar, hands steady, heart full. This wasn't the man who once agreed out of desperation. This was a man being chosen. When the music changed, the world narrowed. Emily walked toward me. Not rushing. Not hesitating. Choosing every step. We wrote our own vows. Not poetic. Honest. I promise to choose you, Emily said, voice steady, even when fear tells me to run. My throat tightened. I promise to be patient, I said, and brave enough to love you without deadlines. No applause. Just silence filled with meaning. When the officiant pronounced us married, it didn't feel explosive. It felt settled. Like coming home. Emily laughed softly as I kissed her. Forever, she whispered. Forever, I replied. During the reception, her grandmother raised a glass. I once came to visit because I believed my granddaughter was married, Ruth said. Turns out, she just hadn't met the right moment yet. Laughter followed. And now, Ruth continued, eyes kind, she hasn't settled. She's chosen. Emily squeezed my hand. That night, after the lights dimmed and the last guests left, we sat on the floor of our apartment. Just like the night we got engaged. No dress. No suit. Just us. Do you regret anything? Emily asked. I shook my head. Only that we were ever afraid. She leaned into me. Me too. Forever wasn't grand gestures. It was ordinary mornings. Shared silence. Hard conversations handled with care. A love that didn't need emergencies to exist. 1 year later, Emily laughed as she looked at me. You know, she said, I once needed a husband by tomorrow. I smiled. And now? I asked. Now, she said softly, I have the right one, for a lifetime. Sometimes love begins as a lie told out of fear. But when two people choose honesty, again and again, it becomes something stronger than truth. It becomes home.